everyone, it's Nadia from YARNutopia. Today we are going to be making the Patchouli Poncho. This is such an eclectic piece. I am so excited for this project. We actually filmed this 3 different times. We started at my dad's studio at his house, then we came to my studio, and then we had Halloween and my birthday and everything in there, so we ended up having to wait, and now we finished. So you'll see that this video has different scenes in it throughout the video, but no big deal. We'll get through it together. I'll actually, you know what, just get into the supplies and then we'll get into the frequently asked questions and then we'll get into making this. So big thank you to Red Heart Yarns for providing the yarn today. We're using so many different yarns in this. We're using Colorscape yarn right here, and this color is called Rome, and that's for our top main part and this part over here. Then we are using Italian Story Ambra in this blue color right here. This is called Mare. I don't actually have the skein. You're just going to need 1 ball of that. This Colorscape yarn, you're going to need 561 yards. That's 3 skeins of that. And then we're going to use Hygge yarn, which is all these granny squares. So Hygge yarn, I'm using many different colors in this eclectic piece, all these granny squares. And these granny squares are all made with different colors. So I'll list all of the colors in the description of this video on YouTube and on the blog in the materials section. There's too many to name. I also used some Super Saver yarn and some With Love yarn in this gold and orange section here. So the orange color is called Mango, and this gold color is called Gold. So those are the Super Saver and With Love yarns. So there's so many different mediums in this project. It's so fabulous. There's tassels on it, and there's a drawstring, and there's just a lot of different shapes and directions, and it's really fabulous. We're also going to be using a J-sized hook, which is super fancy. This one is from the Etsy shop Would Be Fancy. It's a 6mm hook, and we're going to use this throughout the entire project. If you want to get this specific hook or hooks very similar to it, these are all hand-carved, ergonomic, wooden-handled hooks. You can get them at the Etsy shop Would Be Fancy. I'll link it in the description of this video. You're also going to need a scissors, and in this cute little piece that my dad made me, I've got some yarn needles. So you're going to need some yarn needles to sew in your ends and sew things together. So this is a cute little container I got to save them in so I don't lose them. So those are all the supplies you're going to need. Now for measurements, the length of this from the very top all the way to the bottom point of this poncho is 40 inches. The square size of these granny squares are 7 inches. The measurement from one side all the way to the other side is 42 inches. And the neck along this side down to the very first part above the granny squares, so from this here all the way up to the neck, is 23 inches. So those are all the measurements I have. If you have any questions about this, please leave a comment or check out the notes section of the pattern. The pattern will be linked in the description of this video, so you'll be able to check that out. That's the written pattern that's for free on my website, YARNutopia.com. There's a notes section, there's a materials section. I'll have everything here listed there. I have to say a huge thank you to Red Heart Yarns. Big thank you to my dad for filming this entire tutorial over the course of like 3 weeks. And big thank you to you for watching. I can't wait to get started, so let's just do that right now. To start out, we are going to use the Colorscape yarn, and I'm using the color Rome. You can use any color. I just love the feel of this yarn. It's so fabulous and soft, and it's just 100% acrylic, but it's super, super soft. You can see the fiber in the camera here. So I am going to start out with this color, and we are going to make a slip knot. So put your short end over your long end, fold this down, and then pull the long end through and pull tight. And then insert your hook. We're using the J-sized hook, and pull tight, and we can begin. To start off, we are going to chain 114. You can chain any even number that goes over your shoulder. I guess, well, you can't really see me on camera, but over your shoulder to about mid-back, right about here. Yeah, you can get me in the camera here. Right about here, over your shoulder to the front of you. To right in the center here, okay? So if you have to measure that around your body, that we're just going to make a big rectangle, and that is how it's going to start off. So I'm going to chain 114, just yarn over, pull through. There's 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to make you watch me chain 114, so just chain the amount you need, and that's an even number. Make sure it's an even number, and then I'll come back and we'll go on to row 1. Alright, so once you have a really long chain that measures around you, where I said, we are going to continue on to row 1. So we are going to single crochet into the 4th chain from the hook here. So the loop on the hook does not count as a chain, so count 1, 2, 3, and 4. This chain right here. And what I personally like to do is turn the chain toward me. And you can see these back ridges on your chain. That's where I like to work, but you can work in any loop of the chain. It does not matter. So count 1, 2, 3, and 4. This chain right here, go in to the chain, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. That is a single crochet. Now this space right here that is created by skipping those 3 chains in the beginning there, we are going to work into this little hole later for row 2. So just keep that in mind when you are working, that there should be a hole right there. Now we are going to chain 1 and skip a chain, and then single crochet into the next chain. And this is actually the start of what's called the moss stitch. Okay, so then we're going to chain 1 and just repeat that. Skip a chain and then single crochet into the next chain. And we're doing that all the way across. So chain 1, skip a chain, and then single crochet into the next chain. So I'll do that, and then once I'm finished with this row, I will come back and we'll go on to row 2 together. Alright, your finishing should be chain 1, skip the next chain, and then single crochet into the last chain on this row. And that's row 1. Now what we're going to do is turn our work around, okay, and we are going to chain up 2. 1 and 2, okay, and we are going to work into the chain 1 spaces that are between the single crochets. So in this very first chain 1 space right here, we are going to single crochet, and then we're going to chain 1, skip the single crochet here, and then single crochet into the next chain space. So basically all we're doing is chaining 1 and single crocheting into the next chain space. Then chain 1, single crochet into the next chain space. And that's all we're doing all the way across. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and at the end of row 2, I'll come back, show you how to finish row 2, and then we'll go on to the next step. Alright, when you're finishing row 2, make sure to chain 1, and then remember that space I said in the very beginning there. We are going to work our last single crochet into that little hole right there. It should be basically our last chain space. And then we're just going to now repeat row 2. We're going for rows 3 through 35. Okay, row 35 should get you to a piece that's about 10 inches or 11 inches. So chain 2, turn your work around, and then single crochet into the chain 1 space. Then chain 1 and single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and just keep doing that all the way across. And when you finish row 3, I'm just going to pull this loop up here, when you go all the way across to the very end here, this little space that's right here, make sure to single crochet into that very end, just like I showed you for row 2 there. Okay, so make sure you single crochet in there, then chain 2, turn your work around, and do the same thing. So do that for rows 3 through 35, and your piece should be about 10-11 inches or so. And if you want it thicker, totally go for it. You can make your poncho as big as you want it to be. So once you get that part done, I'll show you what to do after row 35. Alright, I just finished row 35. I'm going to chain 2 to go on my next row, but I'll show you what it looks like now. So this is what your piece should look like, just a big rectangle piece, okay? So what we want to do at this point is fold this in half, just like this, okay? Make sure it's evenly in half. Okay, so if you can see it at this point here, this is going to be on one shoulder, and this is going to be basically the center bottom. So we need to make a piece that comes off here like this, okay, so that we have the other shoulder. So that's where we're going to start now, is we are going to continue this moss stitch, but we're only going to end up right about here. That's about 15 or 16 stitches in, okay? You can measure it however you need to. If you need to do more, 20 stitches or less, 10 stitches or so, just to make sure that your head hole, your neck hole here, is going to be big enough to stretch around your head to put over your body. So you can measure this out, and about, I would say about right here, okay? So this is about, I would say, I don't know, 10 inches or so, 10, 12 inches. I'm just eyeballing it, and I don't have my measure tape right next to me. But if you want to measure it out and make sure that your neck hole then, because it'll come up right here, okay, so it'll be like this, V, neck, so your head fits in there, okay? So at this point, we are going to continue now over making the other shoulder, because this is a shoulder right here, so we're going to make another shoulder over here. So let's do that right away. Going on to row 36. Okay, I chained up 2 already and turned my work around, and we are just working this moss stitch. Single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and so on. So just continue working this stitch, and I'm going to do about 16, I think so, and then I'm going to measure it out here. So let me grab some more yarn. Oh man, this always happens. I always end up with a knot in my yarn. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Just continue to moss stitch until you're about half, or not even halfway through, about 16 stitches or so, 15 or 16. I like to do even numbers, but that's creator's choice. You can do as many stitches as you want. Okay, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and continue. Okay, I'm going to count how many stitches I did here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, oh, 17. I did an extra. Okay, so I'm just going to hold this here real quick. I'm going to fold this back in half. Okay. And so I can see that that is where the neck is going to start. The neck hole is going to be. So then this part, this shoulder part, is going to be just this thick, which I think is a good amount at that point. So what I'm going to do, and if you want to, you could even measure this length right here and have this length be the same as this length, if that makes sense. But it doesn't have to be super even if you don't want it to be. I kind of want mine like oblong or off center a little bit anyways, but that's creator's choice also. So now going on to the next step, first I need to untangle my yarn even more. I don't know how I got stuck with my other yarn. There we go. Okay. We're safe now. Okay, so now what we need to do is basically do what we were doing, chain 2 at the end of your row and turn your work around, and just work the moss stitch across this little section here, okay, until this reaches about 14 inches. Or what you could do, again, folding this in half, measure from this point here. Let's zoom out just a little bit there. So this is how long this side is, right? So measure your neck portion. So measure from this point to this point right here across this way, and double that. Okay, so this for me is 7 inches right here, 7 inches from here to here. So I need to make this shoulder piece double that. So 14 inches is what this side, what this part that I'm working on right now needs to be. 14 inches, so that it will come over the shoulder and to the back. And then what we'll do when we have that 14 inches, we'll come back to the back and we'll sew it to these stitches over here. So that's the plan. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm just going to do this until it is 14 inches. I don't know how many rows that is at this point, but in the next clip I will let you know, and we'll go on to the next step together. Alright, welcome back everybody. We had to do a little change of scenery, but we are back, and I finished this section here. This is rows 36 to 80, okay, and that actually measures out to be the 14 inches that I needed for the shoulder. So when you fold this down, well, we had that folded in half already, and then you fold this down, it makes the shoulder. So you can kind of see the shape of our poncho now, and all we have to do is sew this to this part right here. So, and this is going to be the back of our poncho, so you won't see this in the front. So what we have to do when you finish row 80, or however much you need to do, I would recommend ending on an even numbered row. We're just going to chain 1 at the end of there and cut our yarn quite long for sewing, and then pull it through that chain 1 there. Just pull it all the way through and pull tight, and that's secure. So now what we want to do right away, we're just going to grab our yarn needle. I don't know where my good one is, but I have this yarn needle here. I'm just going to yarn the needle with this strand that we just cut, and we're going to sew this down to this line right here. So what I'm going to do is count the 16 stitches in. So 16 chain spaces in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So right here is where I want to attach, and it'll get to the end there. Okay, so I'm just going to go from the inside out here, so going in to this side. Okay, they're attached now. And then going from the inside out on this chain 1 space right here. Okay, and we're just going to go through the chain 1 spaces. So go into this next chain 1 space over here. I mean, you could sew together like all the stitches and chain 1 spaces, but I'm just going to sew together the chain 1 spaces. Okay, and then this one right here. And this is considered the mattress stitch. If you want to sew it together doing like a whip stitch, I would recommend sewing it inside out. So you have to decide which side you want to be the outside of your work, and then sew it together using a whip stitch, which is just working around and around and around and around. But I'm going back and forth here. So I'm going through the chain 1 spaces from the inside out. Okay, and then going across, inside out, and pull. So I'm going to do that all the way across, and then I'll meet you up when I'm ready to fasten this part off. Alright, when you're ready to fasten this off, I'm just going to go around the last 2 stitches, or like in the in 2 loops basically, wherever the yarn will fit. And I'm going to pull through, but I'm going to keep my finger in this loop here. Okay, and then I'm going to come back through this loop, through here, and then pull that tight. And that creates a knot, tight enough to be secure. Now if you're unsure if that is secure, you can do that again. So I'll show you again. Let me just cut this shorter here. Okay, so go through 2 stitches. Keep your finger in the loop, come back through the loop, and pull. And then we're just going to take this end and just sew it in underneath some of the stitches that we just sewed together. Just so that's hidden and out of the way. Okay, now the next step, we are going to use a different yarn. We are going to use the Italian Story Ombre yarn, which I am super obsessed about right now. It is so beautiful, variegated. Here is the yarn ball, and it is an Italian Story Ombre, and the color that I am going to be using is called Mare. So it's a variegated blue color. You can choose any colors that you want, so I'm just going to use 1 ball of this. And so this is what your poncho should look like right now. This is the back side where we seamed this together, but it really doesn't matter because you really can't see the seam. So if you wanted this to be your front, that's totally cool, but if you flip this over to the front, this is what the front should look like. Okay, so at this point, actually you want to actually flip this to the front because we actually want, let's see here, you know what, I have to look at a picture real quick. My drawing here says, yeah, my mom drew out this drawing, so I'm trying to decipher which color goes where and how I want this to actually look. So I'm thinking what we'll do is go on this side first and do the mare in this variegated, in this section right there. So we're going to, this is my process. You guys can see behind the scenes here what I usually do is I look at this image and I see what my mom drew up and where the color should go. So we're going to do a little section right here of the mare color. So you can choose this side or you can flip it over to this side. And maybe I'll do this side. This could be my front. I don't think that seam, you can't really even see it very much. So maybe this will be my front, you guys. You can decide whichever way you want. But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to use mare. And we are going to work along the foundation row here. So we're going to flip this upside down, grab our crochet hook, insert it into the chain space of this beginning here. And we're going to continue the moss stitch, so hook on your new yarn and then chain up 2. 1 and 2. And then find the next chain space right here and single crochet into there. Okay? Then chain 1, find the next chain space and single crochet in there. Chain 1 and single crochet. And just keep doing that. We're just going the opposite way now. And we're just doing this moss stitch on the opposite side of our foundation row. And we're going to do that all the way across, meaning across here, we're started at this corner, we're going to go across here, we're going to flip this and work along that side too. So this whole thing is going to be crocheted across. So once I get around this little edge here, I'm going to get to the end here and I'll meet you back up. Just do the moss stitch all the way and then I'll show you how to go on to the next row. Alright, be sure to single crochet into this last chain space right here and then we can go on to the next row. So this is considered row 1 of the opposite side. In my written pattern, if you're following along with that, I'll say work on the opposite side of the foundation row, and we're going to do 10 rows of this moss stitch in this mare Italian Story color. So chain 2, turn your work, and work the moss stitch. And we're going to do that for 10 rows total. So this is row 2 here. Just chain 1, single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and do that all the way across, and then chain 2, turn your work and go on to the next row of doing moss stitches until you have 10 rows total. And then once I have 10 rows of that, we are going to change color and go on to the next step of our poncho. Alright, so I just finished row 10 here. I'm just going to chain 1 here, and I'm actually going to cut my yarn. If you wanted this section to be a little bit thicker, you can continue however many rows you want yours to be. Just know that it will make your poncho longer then. So I'm just going to do the 10 rows, just a little splash of blue in there, and then cut that yarn and pull it through that chain 1 and pull tight. And then we're going to turn our work so we're looking at the outside here. So I just did the 10 rows. If you do more rows than that, make sure to just end on an even row. So I did 10 rows. You can end on 12 rows or 14 rows or 16 rows. And don't worry about it being like less or like jaggedy edge here, because we are going to be crocheting on this side as well. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this and you can stretch it out or whatever, but we're going to keep going on this side here, and I'm introducing With Love. Okay, With Love yarn Super Saver with Love, or sorry, Red Heart Super Saver. I guess it's not even Super Saver, it's just Red Heart with Love. I don't know why I'm saying Super Saver, because I'm going to be using Super Saver, I guess. So I'm using Mango in With Love, and then the Super Saver in gold here. So those are the two colors I chose. You can choose any yarn. You can use both With Love or both Super Saver, any colors that you want. So 2 colors. And we are going to do the same moss stitch. I'm just going to start with Mango first, and we're just going to attach our yarn right here where we cut our yarn off. We're just going to start into that chain space right there, and we're going to, actually you should start in the stitch. I don't know why I started in the chain space. Start in the actual stitch, okay, and then chain up 2 just like you would going on to the next row. Okay, 1 and 2, and then single crochet into this chain 1 space right here, and then continue your moss stitch. So chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and so on. And do that till the end of this row. Then chain 2, turn your work, and do the moss stitch all the way across. And when I finish the second row of this new color, I will be changing color then to gold. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do 2 rows of this mango orangey color, and then once I finish those 2 rows, I will come back and I'll go on to the next step with you. Alright, I just finished 2 rows of this moss stitch in the mango color, and now I want to change color. So we're going to just chain 1 and cut this yarn. Sorry, here, pull that through there. Pull tight. We're going to turn our work around. Okay, and I'm going to grab the gold color. And remember how I showed you how to attach this orangish color? We're going to attach in the first stitch right here. And then hook the new color on and pull through. And then chain up 2. 1 and 2. And then just continue the moss stitch just like we would for 2 rows. And then we're going to do the same thing, change color back to this orange mango-y color, and then do 2 rows of that, and then change color back to this gold color and do 2 rows of that. And we're just going to continue to alternate every 2 rows. Okay, so cut your yarn after the 2 rows, sew in your ends, all that good stuff. And once the 2 rows of each color are done, you can do that however many times you want, the change of the color. And you could even do every other row or every 3 rows if you want to. But I'm going to do every 2 rows. I'm going to change color back and forth between these 2 colors. And I'm going to do it until there is 22 rows total. Okay, so that should get me about 11 sections of these 2 colors. Okay, so we started on the orangish mango color. We're going to end on the orangish mango color. So that'll be 11 sections. You could do 13 sections or 15 sections of the 2 rows. So I will show you when I'm finished what it will look like, and we'll go on to the next step. So just continue working each 2 rows of the mango, then 2 rows of the gold, then 2 rows of mango, fastening off after the second row and changing color to the next color, to the other color, or whatever, swapping each color. So we're going to do that, and once I have 22 rows total of these rows, we're just doing the moss stitch basics, same concept from the beginning. And once I finish my 22nd row of this section, I will come back and we'll go on to the next step. Alright, welcome back. I just actually ended up only doing 18 rows of this. So you can see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. If you wanted to, though, go on to doing the last 4 of those, the 22 rows total. Go ahead and do that. Just make sure when you start with the mango color, you want to end with the mango color, okay, or the orangish color. So make sure you start with the color, you end with the color. So I did 18 rows instead. Just make mine a little shorter. I'm short, so it's going to be kind of long on my whole arm. So I want to make sure, and we are adding the granny squares later too, so it's going to add length to that as well. So, but you can add more or less rows to this part, you can add more or less rows to this part, totally creator's choice. So we're just doing the moss stitch. So I just chained 1 here, I cut this yarn, and I'm pulling that through. So this is what your work should look like right now. Okay, and ignore the fact that this is going inward right here. We will fix that. And this is kind of what it looks like right now. So now what we're going to do is work this section right here, going back and forth, starting in this corner, going around to this corner, and then back and forth. Kind of like how we were doing these 2 sections right here, but just on this side now. And we're working along the edge of this. So what we need to do, I'm actually going to flip this to the back right here, and we're going to start right in this little stitch here. Okay, and we want to start in the actual, I guess it's a chain 2 space right here. Okay, you can start in the chain, or in the chain. So there's a chain 2, so you can start in the actual chain, because we'll actually work into the chain 2 spaces. The chain 2 stitches, I guess they're considered as. So I know it's hard to get your hook in there. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the Italian Story Ombre again. Okay, so the same color as this section right here. And we are going to make about 14 rows. It really doesn't matter how many. I'm going to do 14 and see how thick that is. But what we want to do is get our section here. We're going to do 2 colors. We're going to do the Italian Story Ombre, and then we're also going to go back to the Colorscapes yarn, and we're going to make moss stitches going this way. Okay, and so we're going this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth like this. And we want this thickness here to be the same thickness as this. And for me, this is 28 rows. So if I'm going to do 2 colors and I want to cut them in half, I would be doing 14 rows of each color. I hope this makes sense. It's all written in the written pattern. If it does not, you can read it on YARNutopia.com. So I'm going to cut them in half. So my 28 rows here, I'm going to cut them in half, 14 rows of this color, and then 14 rows of the other color. So that's what I want to do. So what we're going to do here is attach this first color. This is the Italian Story in Mare. Okay, and we're going to chain up 2. And since we're working on this side, we are only working in the chain 2 spaces. So this first space is right here, is a chain 2 space. So we're going to go into there and make a single crochet. Okay, then you can see this is a stitch, this is a single crochet. So we're going to chain 1 and skip over that. And we're going to single crochet into this chain space right here. And then just continue that all the way down the rows. So chain 1, skip a row, go to the next row, and single crochet. Chain 1, skip this row, go into the next row, and single crochet. And we're doing that all the way down, all the way across this whole piece. And this one will probably be a little longer. Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be longer than the first time we did this, only because we have these extra 28 rows to work with that I'm working along the side of right now. So I'm going to do that all the way across using this new mare color, and once I have this done, I'll go on to row 2 of this side with you, and yeah, we'll go on to the next step. Alright, just finishing up this row here, and you want to end at the very top stitch. Even if your stitch ends up in this stitch right here, along this edge right here, then that's okay. Just chain 1 and single crochet in the very last stitch here at the top. So now we're going to chain 2 and then turn our work this way and work the moss stitch for 14 rows, or however many rows you want to do. So I'm going to do 14 rows, just chain 1, skip the stitch, single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, skip the stitch, single crochet in the chain 1 space, and do that all the way across. Then chain 2 and turn your work and continue working the moss stitch again. So I'm just going to do that all the way across for 14 rows total. And then once I finish that, I will come back and we'll go on to the next step together. Alright, when you finish this portion here, I just finished the 14 rows of this section here, and I marked the stitch, and I'll tell you why in just a second, but what we want to do is just chain 1, cut your yarn, and pull that all the way through, and pull that tight so that that is secure. And this is what your work should look like now. Okay? So as you can see down here, I have measured out 28 stitches and gone into the next stitch over. And as you can see here, where this blue is right here, it matches up where my marker is. Okay? So we're going to do it on both sides. So this much section, measure off, go to here. It should be 28 stitches because this is 28 rows right here, so it should be 28 stitches. So I counted in and I measured to the next single crochet stitch. Okay? Then I went to the opposite side and did the same thing on this side too. Okay? And now what we're going to do, as you can see, I'm going to actually flip this over to this side because we're going to start right here. And we marked the stitch, so we're going to go over one, let's see here, go up to here. So we're going to go into this chain 1 space to the left of it. And we are going to crochet from this chain 1 space all the way over here, around here, to this stitch marker right here, to this chain 1 space on this side of the stitch marker. And we are going to work with this color, the Colorscapes yarn right here. So I'm going to insert my hook into this chain 1 space here, grab my Colorscape yarn, hook that on, and pull it through. And we are going to work the moss stitch. So chain 2, start off, go into the next chain space here, single crochet, chain 1, go into the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, and just keep doing that until you get to your next stitch marker. Once you get to that point, I will come back on screen here and we will go on to the next step together. Alright, I've come to the point of this next stitch marker right here. Okay, so what we want to do now is just continue to do the moss stitch. So chain up 2, turn the work around, and just work across here and just do back and forth the moss stitch for 14 rows. I'm going to pull this out for a second here just so you can see what my concept is of what we're trying to do. So we want to make this side, this section right here, as wide as this section so that this point right here is in the center and it's even on both sides of our poncho. So we want to make this length longer because this length right here got long. And then what we're going to do once we have the 14 rows of this Colorscape yarn here, then what we're going to do is work this section and this section on this side of this piece right here. And we're going to work down the rows like this in this section here. So it's going to look like this is woven underneath this section and then comes up over into here. I know that doesn't make sense right now, but in the pictures and obviously later in this video, it will make all the sense in the world. So right now, all we're doing is just 14 rows of this colorscape in the moss stitch, and once we have those 14 rows done, or if you want to do more, you can totally do more, just make it even on both sides of your poncho. Once that's done, then I will come back and I will show you how to do this section of your work to finish off this little block area here, and then we can go on to the next step. Alright, welcome back. I know my nails have changed. I went to the salon in the middle of doing this part of the project, and we are finishing this part right here. So we just did 14 rows, let's see here, 14 rows of this, 14 rows of this where we marked off, okay? So now we're back. Welcome back. It's been a little bit for us here. It's like been instant for you guys. So now what we're going to do is fasten this part off. So let's chain one and grab our scissors and cut our yarn. And then pull that through and pull tight. And now, since we have this little gap here, this little square section here, what we want to do is kind of emulate what's on this side of this panel here. So these rows, these 10 rows here, and then these rows right here, we want to kind of make those on this side. So I'll show you how to do that, and we have to do that on both sides. So I'll show you this side, and then you can do the other side yourself, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So what we're going to do here on this side, I have to sew this in later, and you can even remove the stitch marker at this point. It does not matter. So what we're going to do on this side is we're going to grab this color. So it's basically going to be a strip like this, and then it's going to look like it's underneath this panel right here, and then coming out this side. Okay, and same with this piece too. It's going to look like it's coming out this side. So I'm going to grab some more of the Italian Story Ombre color in Mare. Okay, we're going to attach it to the side of this stitch right here, and we're going to pull that through. Okay, then we want to chain two. I like to twist these around a couple times. There we go. Chain two, 1 and 2, and then single crochet into the same space. So go right in there, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now we're going to work only in the chain spaces. So this is a chain space, this is a single crochet, this is a chain space, this is a single crochet. So we're going to only work in the chain spaces. So this very next one right here is a chain space. So chain 1 and go into the chain space and make a single crochet. And we're doing the same moss stitch for 10 rows. So chain 1, skip this single crochet here, go into this chain space right here and single crochet. Then chain 1, skip the single crochet, go into the chain space and single crochet. Okay, and do that all the way down until you hit this point right here, which I'm almost there. You can just continue watching. Here we go. And this is the last one right here. Okay. So now, instead of attaching here, I mean, you could like slip stitch into this very next stitch here, but you'll still have kind of like a hole when you chain up for the next. So I'm actually just going to ignore this whole side right here. I'm just going to ignore that for now. I'm just going to make my panel and then I'll sew it to it later. So chain up 2, turn your work around, and then just make your moss stitch. So work into the chain space here, single crochet, chain 1, hop to the next chain 1 space and single crochet, chain 1, hop to the next chain 1 space and single crochet. And just do that for 10 rows So exactly, I'm going to pull this out here so you can see, exactly the amount of rows you did for this section right here, you're going to do it for this section right here. And then we'll sew this up. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do this color, and then I'm going to come back when I'm ready to change color for this section up here, and then I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll just sew up the line when it's all attached. So I'll show you when I get finished with 10 rows of this. I'll come back and I'll show you the next step. Alright, once you do 10 rows of this part here, we're going to fasten this part off. So chain 1 and cut your yarn, and then pull that all the way through and pull that tight. Now for the next part here, we are going to attach our yarn to this stitch right here. We're going to grab, so we're going to basically make this side right here, this part here, on this piece right here. So we're going to start with this orangish color. So we're going to attach our yarn to the very first stitch here. Okay, that's where we fastened off. And we're going to hook this on and pull that through. And then we're going to chain up 2, 1 and 2, and then single crochet into the next chain space here, and just continue the moss stitch. Now we're going to do 2 rows of this orangish color, and then we're going to switch to the gold, and then do 2 rows of that, and then switch back to the orange color and do 2 rows of that, just exactly like we did for this part right here. And we're going to make this many, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 rows total. So we'll do that right here, just obviously shorter amount of space, but the same amount of rows. So just do that, and once we have all of these rows done, we'll come back and we'll go on to the next step. Alright, once you have all your rows done, make sure to chain 1, cut your yarn, pull that through, and pull tight. And as I went, I did sew in my ends, so that's why you don't see any ends here. Just grab your yarn needle and sew them all in. Just yarn your needle, and then just go underneath these stitches. Just like that. And back. And then once you have this part all done, we are going to sew this to this side. Okay, so this is what we have to do. So you can see here we have this section here which matches with this section, and then this section matches with this section. So what we want to do is match along this edge here where this one ends. We want to kind of just gauge right around this section here, and that's where the top of this piece is going to be sewn to. So one piece might have to be stretched a little bit, just like that, okay? And then this piece will be to the end and lined up with this side, as you can see. So we are going to use just the main color straight across instead of just sewing in this blue color and then changing color for this section. We're just going to use this piece here is just all blue. So we're going to use that skein of yarn. So I'm just grabbing yarn from the ball of yarn, and then I'm just going to grab my yarn needle, and we are just going to sew this completely closed. So what I'm going to do is do the mattress stitch. So I'm going from the inside to the outside, grabbing a lot of yarn here, and then from the inside to the outside. Okay, and just pull. Then inside to the outside, and on the very next stitch, inside to the outside. And just do that all the way up this piece, and make sure that your piece is even and lines up with the other section, all that stuff. So you just kind of have to eyeball it, stretch it out, make sure that each stitch has a place, and just sew this up, and that's it. So I'm gonna do that, and then we got to do the other side, and then we can attach the granny squares next. Alright, when you finish up, we're just gonna come around to this stitch way over here and this first stitch up here and kind of just make a knot. So I'm going to keep my finger in this loop, come back through the loop, and then pull tight. Okay, and then you could do that once or twice. I'm just going to do it once and then just sew in this end, just like this, underneath those stitches. Okay, and back through, and that's all sewn up. Awesome. Okay, so cut this, and oh, this piece right here, I almost forgot about that. That's attached to the ball of yarn. We have to cut that short and also tie that one in a knot and sew that one in as well. And then, so just come back around through some stitches, keep your finger in the loop, come back through the loop, and pull tight. Okay, and then just sew that end in to hide it somewhere. Okay, then, once you have those ends all sewn in and cut short, that's what your piece should look like. So you can see from straight across the way, it is lined up. It looks like this is going underneath this panel here and over to this other side. And same with this one, going over just like that. So that looks really good. It's all lined up. So all I need you to do is do the same exact thing to the other side as well. Okay, same concept for this side too. So you have that done on both sides. And that looks really good because that's lined up. Just like that. This is really nice so far. It crosses over really nicely. Okay, cool. So now we have, I don't know if you can see in this corner here, we have some granny squares. So if you've been following along with the 365 days of granny squares, you will see we have number 280, which is the Sublime Light granny square. So I made a bunch of these. I actually don't even have the count of how many I have. I just made a bunch of them. And I might need to make more, actually, now that I'm looking at this. But we are going to outline the edge, front and back of this piece. So we're actually going to start here. Let me move this up just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to start here and here. And we're just going to attach a bunch of these granny squares. So I will link the video for this granny square if you want to make this granny square or any granny square design that you want, you can make. But I am going to attach, okay, so 4 in the front on this side here, and then probably same amount on this side here. Okay, and probably 1 extra. So we'll do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the front here, and then 8 in the back. Okay, so don't look at my mess around here, but this is how it's going to be attached to the poncho itself to make it a little bit longer and a little bit more fashionable. And I'm going to probably mix a few of these up here just because to break up some of the coloring. So I'm going to, if you need to, make a bunch of these squares, and at the end I'll let you know how many I made, probably 16 total. And once you make all your granny squares, I'll come back and I will show you how to attach. I'm going to attach some of them off camera right now, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to attach some, and then we'll go on to the next step. Alright, I'm back just to clarify a few things. All of these granny squares are exactly the same. It is the Sublime Light granny square, number 280 granny square of the 365 Days of Granny Squares project. And don't mind Fern there, she's just chilling. But these granny squares, I'm not going to do a tutorial in this video, only because I already have a video tutorial for these granny squares. You can go on YARNutopia and search Sublime Light granny square, or you can just find it in the description of this video to see the video tutorial for it. Now, all of these granny squares are made using the Huga yarn, Red Heart Huga yarn, in a variety of colors, and they are all listed in the description of this video. So I will have all the colors that I'm using in this video and in my squares in the description of this video, but you can use any colors that you want, as many colors as you want. So those are the squares. Now once you have your squares done, as you can see, I'm already sewing these ones. I already sewed these ones together, and I'm on this side now. So you want to sew it in this shape, like a V, and you can see that I actually did 7 in the front. Okay, so it's pretty stretchy, so I'm going to sew it to this piece like this in a V shape. So there's 3 here, and then 1 in the middle. So there's 7 in the front, and then there will be 7 in the back. So 14 squares total. I didn't actually know that in the last clip, and I was like, ooh, how many squares do I need? But you need 14 squares. Yours, if you did it a little bit bigger, you can obviously do more squares. So what we're going to do is whip stitch these together using the Colorscape yarn. So I'm going to grab, I have some right here, and what I'm doing is I'm going to fold this, the right sides facing each other. So I'm going to fold this down over this one. Don't mind my loose ends. I suggest you sew them in as you go, because I'll be kicking myself later when I have to sew mine in off camera here. But I have my yarn needle and my Colorscape yarn right here, and we are going to just whip stitch this together. So what we're going to do is just go through this side every time and just pull up a little bit from the ball of yarn and just go through this loop and this loop, both layers, just sewing them together just like this. We gotta get that straggler. All the stragglers need to be sewn in, but for video purposes here, I'm just going to show you. We're just doing it in the back loops. You could do it in both loops. Just whip stitch this together just like this. In each stitch they should all match up. And then once you have them all sewn together, just on this short edge here, okay, then we're going to tie it off on this end, tie it off on this end, and then they'll be sewn together. And you can see here I have these ones all, I whip stitched on the back side here like that, and they're all sewn together, and we just fastened them off just like I normally fastened off. So that is the shape. Then once we come back, I'll have both sides, both V's, I guess they're considered a V shape. I'm going to have them both done. One side I'll already sew on, but this other side I'll show you. We're going to start from that corner and then work our way down around to this corner up here. So we're going to sew this all together in just a little bit. So make all your squares, sew them in V shapes, and we will come back after our nap. Alright, welcome back. So as you can see here, I have 14 of these squares, front and back here, and I sewed them. So I sewed them in a strip here, and then attached here, and I'll flip this over to the other side and just in between each piece here. And you can see that I whip stitched them using that Colorscape yarn. So you can't even see it though on the front really. I mean, you can kind of, but barely. So, and it all kind of ties together, which is nice. So now what we want to do is attach this to this. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to start in this corner of this piece right here, and we are going to start with the Colorscape. We're going to use the Colorscape yarn to attach everything. Okay. And to attach this, I am actually going to flip this over and flip this over so that the right sides are facing each other and we are looking at the inside. So if you wanted to flip this inside out, you totally can. I'm just going to flip it as I go. And we're going to start in this corner here and into this piece right here. And you're going to want a lot of yarn, so keep pulling. Okay, we're going to go around this whole thing, and we're just going to whip stitch. So then just keep pulling And you know how to whip stitch by now. We whip stitched all the squares together, so we're just going to whip stitch these squares to the poncho. And at first it's going to be a lot of pulling, a lot of yarn, but then as you get closer toward the end it's going to be less because your yarn is going to be eaten up basically by this piece. So I'm just going to do that all the way around this whole piece and attach all the squares, and once I get back to the beginning I will come back, show you how to fasten off, and then we can go on to the next step. Alright, once you come back to the beginning and you have everything sewn together, I'm going to sew the two ends of the sewing strand together. Just going to knot those in a knot, and then I'm going to take those two ends and then sew them in. And as you can see, I have so many ends I need to sew in. So make sure you sew your ends in as you go, because you don't want to be like me and have to sew them all in at the end. It's just not fun. So I'm just sewing these all in, hiding them, going back and forth. Yeah, and look at all those terrible ends. Oh my gosh. Okay, cut that and put it right side out and straighten it up. We just have a couple more things we want to do, but it's turning out to be so fabulous. Wow, that really is coming all together. I'm loving it. We wanted to make the collar next, so let's go to the back of our work. You can see here's my seam from way earlier, so I'm just going to start in the back right here. And all we're going to do, let me grab my crochet hook here. All we're going to do is just moss stitch. Let's just, we're just going to moss stitch all the way around. Okay, so let me grab my, and we're going to do the same yarn. So same Colorscapes yarn, hook it on with our hook, same J hook here. Okay, chain up 2, 1, 2, single crochet in the same spot, and then work in the chain 1 spaces. So right here, single, or we have to chain 1 first, then single crochet in the chain space, then chain 1, hop to the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, hop to the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, and do that all the way around the collar. And then once you come back around, I will show you what to do next. Alright, I'm finishing up this round. As you can see, I started right here. So what we're going to do, actually, we're not going to slip stitch and chain. We're going to work in continuous rounds. So what that means is we are going to work into this chain space right here where we chained up 2. We're going to work into there, make a single crochet. So actually chain 1 after your last stitch, okay, and then work into this chain space right here where we chained up 2, okay, then chain 1, hop to the next chain 1 space that we created, and single crochet, chain 1. And now we are going to work in continuous rounds. We're not slip stitching. So now you'll be able to work in continuous rounds. So the next round you'll work into this space right here, single crochet, then chain 1, hop to the next chain 1 space right here, and single crochet, then chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, single crochet, etc. So we're going to do that moss stitch all the way around, and we're going to do about 10 to 15 rounds of this. It depends on how high you want your collar to be, so that's really creator's choice, but now you've gone on your way and you can work in continuous rounds for however tall you want your collar to be. I'll come back when I'm finishing up and I'll show you how to fasten this part off, and then we'll go on to the next step. Alright, so I did about 10 rows. Here's my back seam here. This is where we started. So I did 1, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I did 11 rounds. I must have lost track. But once you are finished and you come to the back here, what we are going to do is when we're making our double crochet, chain 1, and then, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. We're back to the seam here, chain 1, and instead of single crocheting into the next chain 1 space, we're going to slip stitch. So yarn over, pull through and through, and that closes up the back. Chain 1 and cut your yarn and pull that all the way through, and then pull that tight and look around for your yarn needle and find it, and then sew in your end at the top here. Okay, then the next step is just embellishments. If you wanted to be done with this, just make sure all your ends are sewn in and you can be done with your poncho. But I do want to add a few tassels and a drawstring around the neck here, so I'm going to do that with some Hygge yarn. Okay, so I'm going to turn this to the front here. So I want to, look at how nice that neck looks. How cool. You can straighten that in the back. Nobody's going to see that because that's in the back anyways. Okay, so now I want to add just like a drawstring around the top round of the neck. So what we're going to do is grab some Hygge yarn, and I cut a bunch of strands that were about 6 feet long, okay, like this. And a bunch equals 6 strands, not a bunch, but just 6 strands. And what I did was tied one end in a knot, so I just looped it around, okay, crossed over, and kind of like a slip knot, but we pulled that all the way through, okay? And then that end will be kind of like a tassel. Then we grabbed some tape. Let me grab a piece of tape here, and we taped this down. And then we started braiding. And as I meant my dad, because he helped me do this. So we took 2 strands, 2 strands, and 2 strands. And then we're just going to cross over, cross over, cross over, cross over. And just keep doing that all the way through and make a braid. And if this is going too fast for you, obviously there are video tutorials online to teach you how to braid, but you just want to braid as long as you need to. And when mine got stuck like this and got tangled, my dad helped me untangle them, but now he's filming so he can't. So anyways, I'm just gonna braid. I just braided a long strand that was about 6 feet. I didn't go all the way 6 feet. So I'm going to set this aside and show you what I have done here. So the strands were 6 feet, but the strand, once you braid it, it shortens. So as you can see, I braided this long piece. There's my tape attached to it. And I have what we look at this now. I taped it down here. So it's just a really long strand. And then I put it around my neck to make sure that it is hanging low enough and it is nice and comfortable. And you know what? I actually do have my little measure tape, so I might as well just measure it out for you so you can see. This is 22 inches, so 44 inches long braided. Okay, so 1/2 of it is 22 inches, so it's 44 inches long braided. Okay, so once you have it braided as long as you want it to be, we're going to tie the other end off exactly how we tied the beginning end. So just around and through, and then tie that tight. Okay, just like that, and pull tight. Then we want to take both ends and cut them equal across the top. Oops. Might have to sharpen my scissors. There we go. So they're even across the top. Then what we're going to do is weave it through the front. So I'm going to turn this upside down here. And we're going to weave it along this edge here. Let me go find my, I keep missing my yarn needle. Okay, well, you're going to need your yarn needle. And I think I have one in here. Oh, this one's too small. My dad made me this cool needle holder that helps me not lose all my needles, but in fact I did lose one of my needles. So I'm going to grab my yarn needle, find it real quick, and then I will weave this through. Alright, so I found it, it fell on the floor, and I just yarned a couple of strands into the yarn needle. Not all of them would fit, so just yarned it, and then now I'm going to go into the top round, or you can go in the second round, it's totally up to you. Make sure you are centered on your piece here. So I'm right in the center of my piece, and we're going to go in here, and then out the next one. And we're going in chain 1 spaces, so the knot will fit through. Now it will take a little bit of time and effort, but we'll get through it. And we just want to make sure we go through every one. So through here, out this one. And then you have to kind of finagle the knot. But you're just going through the chain 1 spaces, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, so in and out. And push it through and pull it through. Okay, just like that, all the way around. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and then once I'm back here, we'll be able to undo this, and then we have to add some fringe to the bottom of our poncho. Alright, once you come through the last one here, you should just come out, and you should end on the outside, and make sure that both strands are equal in length, just like that. And there's the top neck piece with the drawstring. Awesome! Okay, now, last step. We want to add some fringe on the bottom. So to do that, I don't want to lose that. We're going to lay this out how it would be. Don't look at my loose ends. I'm going to make the fringe the same color as the drawstring right here. So same hygge color in the, let's see, that color is called almond. So we're going to take 3 strands. I just cut a bunch of strands here. Okay, and I'm just going to take 3 strands, just like this, and these strands are, I'll measure them out real quick, about 12 inches long. Okay, and we are going to take 3 strands, and just wherever you think really, but I'm going to go into each, like where this is, and then where these two meet, and then where these two meet, and then where these two meet, just in each intersection basically. And what we're going to do is take our crochet hook and pull half of the strands through. Okay, make sure it's even. Okay, and we're going to tie those knots. Remember, crisscross over, and then pull that, oops, crisscross and pull it through, kind of like a slip knot. And make sure it's way at the top. Oh my goodness. My cat wants to join us again. So now my cat's in the camera here. So tying that off. There we go. Sorry about my cat. She can get distracting and she really likes this poncho. You can't be in here. So sorry. Okay. So I'm just going to tie that like that. Then we're going to take 3 more strands. Go to, oops, this is a long strand I didn't cut. 3 strands, there we go. Grab our crochet hook, go in here, go into here, pull it half through. So I'll just show you again because my cat got super distracting there, so sorry. Okay, so take these strands and then crisscross and push that through to the other side and pull tight. Now if they're uneven like this, what you can do is cut them so they are even, just like that. But you want them super long. That's probably, let's see, how long is that? 4 inches maybe? 3 inches? Yep, 4 inches long. So that's how long that is, and that's how long I want them all to be. So I'm going to do that at every intersection and at each point in the front and in the back, And once I have all my fringe on, we'll be finished. Alright, so I just I attached and knotted all the tassels and then cut them all to be 4 inches. So that is what they look like. Now obviously you can see some of my ends in the back are still unsewn in, so I need to do that, but I will do that in the end, but we're done here. So if you have any questions about this, please comment on this video or leave me a message on Facebook. I keep holding onto my needle. I need to put this away. My dad made me this super fabulous needle holder. It's so awesome. Check out the Etsy shop, would be fancy. Okay, I need to save my needles in there. And we're done with the Patchouli Poncho. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you to Red Heart Yarns for providing this yarn for this whole project today. Big thank you to my dad back there for filming this entire tutorial 3 different times. We finally finished. And it is gorgeous. I just tried it on and I love it. It's beautiful. Go check out the photos on the blog, YARNutopia.com. Search for the Patchouli Poncho. Check out the links in the description of this video. The written pattern is linked in the description of this video, so you can get that on YARNutopia.com also. And all the supplies here will also be listed in the description of this video. Big thank you to everyone for watching. Until next time, happy hooking!